Good morning, first grade. Back at Walton Academy, moving into our lessons for today. I want to start by telling you I hope you had a great weekend with your family. The weather was nice. I hope you got outside and had some good fun in the sun. Monday, April 6th, we are moving into chapter 6 of the Boxcar Children beginning today. We're going to be moving a little bit faster. I'm going to add something with our lessons today. I'm going to add a little measuring time, which goes along with our math for this week. Remember, I told you in last week's video that the best way to get to be an expert at measuring time and telling time on an analog clock is to do it a little bit throughout the day. So that's what we're going to start with today. We're going to add a little bit of measuring time. I want to remind you on our Happy Monday that Miss Thompson is not with me in our videos, but she's doing all the behind the scenes, making sure my videos get uploaded to YouTube. So she's doing a lot of work to help us out to keep things going as we're moving into this next Monday of learning from home. We're going to roll right on into boxcar, and more boxcar. Just show me the boxcar. Now, if we were together today at Walton Academy, this would be about the time that we would be starting our boxcar lesson. So I want you to look at my analog clock. If you have yours close by, this would be a good time to grab it. You can press pause on your video, grabbing your clock. Remember, our short red hand points to the hour. Our long blue hand points to the minutes. Now I notice that my short red hand is between the 8 and the 9. That means it's after 8, but not yet 9. And that's a little tricky when we're telling time. When the short hand is between the 8 and the 9, it's after 8, not yet 9. Our hour is actually going to be 8. We're going to go with the first hour. After our hour, we're going to put a colon. The colon separates our hour from our minutes. So shorthand between the 8 and the 9, shorthand points to the hour, so our hour is going to be 8. Longhand, blue hand, points to our minutes. Longhand is straight on the 3. So it seems like it would be 8:03 or 8:03, but when the long hand points to the 3, that means as a mathematician, I'm going to need to go to my 12. I call my 12 my SP. We've done this on Fantastic 5. It's my starting point, and I'm going to put my finger right here on my analog clock. My 12 is my starting point, and I'm going to count by 5s. So here we go, count with me. Starting point, 5, 10, 15. So my long hand, my blue hand, is on the 3, but instead of being 8:03, it's going to be 5, 10, 15. It's going to be 8:15 a.m. And that's what time we typically would start our first big lesson on the carpet. So we're getting in a little time this morning. Another way to say 8:15 a.m., remember a.m. antemeridium. Another way to say 8:15 a.m. would be 8:15. And that's one of your math vocabulary terms. So think about 8:15, which means it's 15 minutes past 8 or 15 minutes after 8. Now we're going to move much faster so we can get right into chapter 6 today. So the continents, we're going to roll really quick. This is in your shared reading packet that you should be working on this week. The continents. Continents. Do you know your continents? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia. Don't forget Australia. Don't forget Antarctica. Continents, continents. Do you know your continents? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Arthur, do you know your continents? Unknown. Continents lyrics. Following along with me, I should hear you reading from home. Continents, continents, do you know your continents? North, south, east, and west, all around the world. Asia, Africa, North and South America, Australia, Antarctica, and Europe too. Arthur, unknown. Going to our continents, North America, South America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, Antarctica. Map of our world. Remember, our continent is North America. Looking at our map of the United States, remembering our state is North Carolina, and that is circled in black. Told you we were going to move a little bit faster today. We talked about the Boxcar Children, the first book in the series. We talked about Gertrude Chandler Warner. We talked about what a boxcar looks like. We know the Boxcar Children beginning is the prequel. It's showing us how everything got started for the kids at Fairmeadow Farm. The Boxcar Children beginning, written by Patricia McLaughlin. Moving into our A Farm Visit poem by Betty Franco. We're moving really fast today. A Farm Visit is also in your shared reading pack for this week, so you may be illustrating if you have time to get to that illustrate station. My class went to a farm one day. Forgot to remind you, I should hear you reading with me, working on our fluency. My class went to a farm one day. We touched the soft brown cow. We saw where all the milk came from. I understand it now. We stroked a chicken's feathers and we touched a muddy pig. Her hairs were like a bristly brush. Her eyes weren't very big. We watched the goats butt heads and put their hooves up on the wall. A little baby lamb was with her mama in a stall. We ate some carrots from the ground, a fresh and healthy snack. The farm was really neat. I hope my class and I go back. You know, with our poems and our songs, by the time we've done them for a whole week, like we did every day last week when we did the Boxcar Children beginning, by the time we've gone over those for a whole week, we're able to move really, really fast, and you're probably getting to the point that some of these you almost have them memorized. Summarizing Hokey Pokey, I should hear you reading with me. Wide eyes, big ears, booming voices. Summarizing Hokey Pokey. You put the big ideas in, you take the extras out, you put the essentials in, and you cross the repeats out. You do some summarizing and write the paragraph now. That's what it's all about, summarizing. And we have been summarizing each chapter of the Boxcar Children beginning. Let's go ahead and zip back to Friday and let's go over our summary for chapter 5. I know Mondays our brains are a little slow, so this gives us a good review if our brains got a little lazy over the weekend. I know mine surely did, because I did not work on a lot of schoolwork over the weekend. Here we go. The kids worked together to do the chores on the farm. The kids enjoyed fixing up the barn hideaway and spending time there. The kids were trying to think of something special and exciting to do that was not expensive. Mama explained that Grandfather and Papa had differences, and our AT5 was the hideaway. Now we're going to go over our key ideas. Oh, wrong slide. Sorry, guys. We're going to go over our key ideas for chapter 5, a review from the chapter I read to you on Friday. Our key ideas tell us what the chapter was mostly about. The kids enjoyed spending time in the barn hideaway, and Meg, this was a little crazy, rode Betty the cow like we might ride a horse. Forgot to remind you, I should hear you reading with me the bullets on the smartboard. As school vacation came closer, the kids wished for something fun to do that would not cost money. They knew they could not use the money in the Alden cookie jar because that money was only for emergencies. I want you to remember that money in the cookie jar. That's going to be important later in our book. William and Meg talked about going to live with their grandfather. That's where they're headed in New Hampshire. As they're headed to New Hampshire, they're planning to live with their grandfather. Henry, Jesse, Violet, and Benny said they did not get to see their grandfather. They felt that he did not like them. Mama explained that Papa and Grandfather had differences, and that is why they did not get to see him. She said Grandfather wanted them to live with him, and Mama and Papa wanted to live at Fair Meadow Farm. So it's like they had kind of an argument. Grandfather said, "Come live with me." Mama and Papa said, "No, we want to live at Fair Meadow Farm." So they had an argument. They disagreed. Grandfather in chapter 5 we read was very stubborn. He was upset because he didn't get them to do what he wanted them to do. So therefore he doesn't see his grandchildren, and the kids think it's because he doesn't like them. Mama says it's just that Grandfather and Father have, or Papa has some differences. Now we're going to move right into chapter 6. Remember, we start with our T6, which is a little bit too much scroll there. We start with our T6, which is a small dot in a big world. Our title for chapter 6 gives us clues. My pen is not being very cooperative today. Clues about the main idea of the chapter, or what that chapter was mostly about. Now at home, I want you to do your P6. Remember, as readers, our P6 is when we make our prediction for chapter 6. And as readers, when you make your prediction, you need to really think about what chapter 5 was about as you make your prediction for the next chapter. That's what good readers do. As you're making your prediction, I'm going to turn my iPad so it is facing my rocking chair, because that's where I will be reading chapter 6 today. Yes, Birthday Bear's still there. Yes, Hot Potato Fred is watching us. Boxcar Children Beginning book is ready, and my granny glasses are ready as we move into chapter 6. Now, your job right now is to be good readers and good participators. I should be able to hear you participating from home. Yes, City, I'm still using my bookmark. Chapter 6, a small dot in a big world. On the last day of school, Papa brought home a treasure. At least it was a treasure to Henry. Now, a treasure is something that's special to a person. And what might be a treasure for you may not be a treasure for somebody else. Treasures are different for different people, but at least it was a treasure to Henry. It was a globe of the world that turned on a wooden stand. Now, when I did my continents poem, there was a picture of a globe. A globe is a 3D model of the earth. On my smartboard, I have maps. Maps are flat models of the earth, getting in a little social studies. A globe is a 3D model of the earth. And a globe would be a sphere, which is a 3D figure we've talked about in Fantastic Five, getting in a little math with our reading today. I found it by the road next to a house that people had left. Now, I wonder if people left the house and left the globe by the road because they were having hard times, and maybe they had to move because of those hard times. The globe showed the different countries and the oceans and the rivers. Henry showed Violet where they lived. Right there, he said, pointing. The world sure is big, said Violet. We live in a small dot in a big world. When you look at a globe, which is a 3D model of the earth, and you find where you live, the location where you live is just a little small dot in that big globe or that big world. Where did you live, William? Asked Henry. William slowly turned the globe. There, he pointed. Your city is a big dot in the world, said Violet. Remember, William and Meg came from a big city, which would be an urban community. Henry, Jesse, Violet, Benny live in a small country area close to a little town, but it's a small town, and they live in a rural area, getting in a little social studies. Every so often, Violet reached over to touch the dot that was the town where they lived. Meg and Jessie whispered excitedly. What are you whispering about? Asked Henry. A secret for now, said Jessie. We'll tell you later. Now, as a reader, I'm wondering what Meg and Jessie are whispering about. You make a prediction about what you think they're whispering about. And that night, in their bedroom, with the blanket hung between them and the lights out, the globe sitting on Henry's desk, the secret was out. They whispered and laughed until Mama and Papa came in, Sarah and Jake behind them. Now, the author said the secret was out, but Patricia McLaughlin didn't tell us what the secret was. As readers, she's trying to make us curious. She's trying to make us want to keep reading. That's a little pinch of foreshadowing. What's going on in here, Mama asked. You have chores in the morning. Oh, we're planning something exciting, said Meg. Something to make us all happy, said Violet. What? Asked Papa. A circus, said Violet, grinning. We'll have animals and clowns and costumes and juggling. ... Ellipsis. That means Violet didn't finish her sentence. I can juggle, said Henry. I can sew costumes, said Violet. And what about animals? Asked Jake. There's Joe, said Benny. Remember, Joe's the dog. And Betty, said Meg. Remember, Betty's one of the cows. I will get Betty ready for the circus. Ready, said Sarah. What do you mean, ready? You'll see, said Jessie. You'll see, said Henry. What will I do? Asked William. You'll see, the children said together, laughing. Now, they told their parents the secret. They're planning a circus, but they're not telling them all of the details. I think as a reader, I'm inferring that maybe they would like for them to be surprised about the details of the circus. And who will be a clown? Asked Jake. You'll see, they all said, shrieking with happiness. Benny fell backward on the bed in an excited heap. Joe licked his face. We'll invite Reuben and Belle, that's his wife, and his grandchildren are visiting, and Thomas and Elliot from down the road. Remember, they're in our class at school. Everyone can come, said Jessie. Maybe we should sell tickets. No tickets, said Papa, shaking his head. No one has money for such things. Now, I think what Papa means when he says no tickets, because a lot of people are having hard times. They've lost their jobs. They've lost their houses. Papa says, might be okay to have a circus, but we can't sell tickets because people don't have extra money to buy things like tickets for a circus. We can't even afford tickets, said Jake with a smile. Okay, then it will be a free circus, said Violet. I can't wait. The very first free circus in town. Mama laughed. You'll have to wait until tomorrow for planning. Go to sleep. Hush, everyone. There was quiet in the bedroom after Mama, Papa, Sarah, and Jake left. Joe yawned, a dog yawn, with a squeak at the end. It was still quiet. I like living in this small dot of a town, said William after a while. So do I, said Meg. Do you, Henry? Jessie asked Meg. There was silence. Henry and Jessie were asleep. More silence. And then Benny whispered, I do. When he says I do, he means I like living in this small dot of a town. Now that chapter was really, really short, so we got through that pretty quickly. And we're going to move into our summary for chapter 6. I'm going to turn my iPad back around. Remember, think about the summarizing hokey pokey. When we give our summary, we pick the big ideas in. So let's think about the big ideas for chapter 6 as we summarize chapter 6. And I should hear you with me reading the summary that's up on the smart board. Papa brought a globe home, and the kids realized their town was a small dot in a big world. The kids were planning a circus. They told the grown-ups about the circus, but they kept the details a big secret. So they told the grown-ups they were planning a circus, but they didn't tell them all of the details. Now, Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny are a small dot in a big world because they live in a small country area, and we're going to call that a rural community. Remember, Jake, Sarah, William, Meg are from a big city, and we say they live in an urban community. Getting in a little social studies talking about our different types of communities. So that's a good summary for chapter 6. Let's go ahead and do our AT6 and our another title for chapter 6. Just like our title from Patricia McLaughlin gives us clues about the main idea of that chapter. And another title for chapter 6 that my class last year came up with, if you were here with me, we would come up with one together, but since you're not here with me, we're going to use last year's example. And last year's example, another title for chapter 6 is Circus Plans. That gives us another good title, clues about what our main idea or our chapter was mostly about. Now, as we wrap up, I told you we were going to move faster today, and we did. As we wrap up, I'm thinking that that lesson took me to about right here on my clock. So just like when we started our lesson way back on that continents, and I wanted to go back there anyway to show you that is a globe that we just read about in chapter 6. Now, as I show you my clock, our finish time, I'm going to go back and, my tongue got tied up in a knot. I'm going to go back and add ST is going to be our start time, and ET is going to be our end time. Remember, there are 60 minutes in an hour, so I want us to be thinking about how long that lesson took. Now, I'm just estimating, and I'm thinking we would have finished, if you had been here with me today, at about this time before we would roll right on into our reading groups. So I'm thinking about my analog clock. I'm thinking about my shorthand points to the hour. My longhand points to the minutes. As mathematicians, we start with our shorthand, and I notice my shorthand is still between the 8 and the 9. That means it's after 8, but it's not yet 9. But I notice my shorthand is much closer to the 9. That means when I'm measuring time, that means it's closer to 9 o'clock. But if my shorthand is still between the 8 and the 9, then my hour is still going to be 8. So I'm going to write my hour 8. That means it's after 8, not yet 9. I'm going to put my colon, which separates my hour from my minutes. And I notice my long blue hand is pointing straight to the 9, straight on the 9. It seems like it would be 8:09 or 8:09, but I know that's not correct when I'm looking at my analog clock. When I look at my analog clock, that doesn't mean it's 8:09. It means I'm going to go back to my starting point, my SP. We've done this in Fantastic 5, which is the 12. I'm going to go to my starting point, and I'm going to count by 5s until I get to my 9. So here we go. I should hear you counting with me. Starting point, let's count together. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. So I'm stopping at 45 because my blue hand stopped at 45. So my end time, my minutes are going to be 45. Now it's 8:45. Remember, I'm estimating. It's 8:45, about how long it would have taken us to do this lesson. 8:45 a.m. 8:45 a.m. means it's 45 minutes after 8, 45 minutes past 8. A.m., time vocab that we're still working on this week. A.m., antemeridium, in the morning. 45 minutes past 8, 45 minutes after 8. Also, instead of 8:45, I could say, this is on our time vocabulary, I could say it's quarter till 9 o'clock. It's in between 8 and 9. It's quarter till 9. Remember, I did this for you on Friday. We'll get to this when we get to our regular math lesson today. Remember, when I divide my clock or partition into 4 equal pieces, when that long hand is on the 9, it's quarter till the next hour. Now that's going to be a good stopping point today. I told you we were going to work on a little bit of time throughout our day today. So even though it's Boxcar Children Reading Group's time, we're also working on math measuring time. If we were here at school today, this would be a good time that we would maybe take a quick little break. And you know, after our carpet reading time, it's when we typically go right into our reading groups. So if you're following our schedule at home, this would be a good time for you to go right into your reading group at home. Or if you're not following the schedule at home, that's okay, as long as you're working to get your jobs done each day. So this would be a good time to take a break, a good time to stretch. I have one little thing, one little trick up my sleeve. I need to get in a few more of these little things that we do in the classroom now that we're having school at home. I brought out my pop gun that everybody loves, and I'm going to give everybody in the class a pop for being good listeners, good participators. I could hear some of you with those booming voices. I'm also going to give you, not sure if you can see me on that camera from that iPad, I'm also going to give you a marble in my bucket for working hard at home and working to get all those jobs done, even though we're not able to be together in the classroom. Good stopping point for today. I hope you have a great Monday, and I'll be seeing you a little bit later as we move forward into our next lessons.